When you become an NLP coach or even a hypnotherapist, one of the biggest fears that very few NLP trainers ever talk about is the fear that nothing works. The fear that you do everything that was contained in your NLP manual and actually the client or the patient still doesn't change and you really don't know what else to do. So in this video, we are going to reveal 3 techniques that can alleviate this problem and notice how the resistance of any patient can be overcome easily. So first of all, a patient or a client coming to you, once they come to you, it means that they have exhausted all the choices at their disposal before they get to you. Which means just them being there and you being here to help will be already enough to act upon some things inside their mind. When despite that, there is resistance and they just argue with you, they think nothing of what you propose will make sense or will work, and they don't seem to change in any way, what that means is that there is something vulnerable inside themselves, something they are trying to protect, and they are reacting maybe aggressively to protect something inside. It's not even against you, it is because they are scared somehow. Some part of their mind is scared and they try to cover with a shield of anger, a shield of confusion, a shield of procrastination, this thing that has been wounded inside them. So the first technique we are going to use here is the anchoring the dissociation of that person. When you ask that person any question involving the perceptual positions, so if you were somebody else who does not suffer from your problem, or if you were somebody who has already recovered from that, or do you have any person in mind who has never suffered from this, or do you know somebody who is a great master at the thing you would like to achieve, and if you were that person, you get the idea, any kind of perceptual position where you make them get out of their body and experience what it would be like to be somebody else who could handle this right now. If you were Tony Robbins, for example, obviously you could get rid of many problems that have been difficult in your life so far. You can also play with the perception of the past. If you were still the person you were today, you were 10 years ago, and if you come back to the moment where you have been wounded when you were 8 years old or whatever, whenever you make them shift like this, their perception, you are going to use gestures with specific emplacements in the room. And whenever you notice they mention a resource, of course, if I was Tony Robbins, I could accomplish so much more in my life. Okay, so if Tony Robbins was right here, and whenever you could jump into Tony Robbins' body, what would you experience? You anchor a position in the room like this to anchor a resource, or whenever you have made them dissociate. So, okay, if you were not in your life anymore, where would you locate in that room the person you would be if you had never suffered from this problem? Just right here, okay, on the couch right here. So, whenever you are that person, and if they start getting irritated again or start getting nervous, you can just point out with the same anchor, the same gesture, okay, if that person was able to deal with that nervousness, if this person right here was able to deal with that type of problem, what do you think they would say? And you keep building up an anchor like this for any resource in the room. Whenever you point out to a place in the room where they have mentally attached something positive, they will more easily dissociate from the present conflict. And if they start getting aggressive against you because you are touching something really painful inside them, you can just point out, oh, okay, I don't mean to be disrespectful, I only wanted to know out of curiosity if you could go back to this place mentally. What would that person say? Or how would you react if you were at this position right now? The more you play with those anchors, the more the person will associate their negative responses to things that could help them. Technique number 2 is a language pattern this time. It is, I understand, none of this is your fault. Johnny or whatever. I understand none of this is your fault, and if, hypothetically, there was something you could do about it, what do you think it would be? So there is a lot of embedded questions in that language pattern, and it comes from the Milton model, obviously. The thing is, some clients, the extreme case, some clients don't come to therapy to heal or to get help, they come to complain. And although this is an extreme case, I have seen that a few times, where at some point you gotta challenge them a little bit, because if whatever you say, whatever you propose, whatever you give them as an exercise, it seems like nothing is making sense to them, nothing is never helpful, whereas you have been trained, there must be a problem in their compliance somehow. So the soft version is this one. I know nothing is your fault, so you decrease the resistance. Of course, nothing of what happened to you is your fault. Everything is the fault of this person, of your ex-boyfriend, of your parents, of the douchebag at your job. Of course, none of this is your fault. Now, even if none of this is your fault, if there was something you could do about it. So you bring back the responsibility, even though you have paced their limitation with nothing is your fault, you bring back the responsibility to something they can do. And if they say nothing, then what the hell are you doing here? Because you come here for solutions to me, I want to help you. If none of what I say can ever produce anything, either I am not the right person for you, which is fine, just say it and goodbye. Otherwise, why don't you act upon the things I tell you to act upon? And when I tell you that there is one thing you could do about your life, at least consider the option. I'm saying that because one time, I would say only one, I had a few clients like this, but only one time one guy was really just not moving in any sort of possible way, and after 5 sessions, which is an insult to my skills, normally after 3 sessions it is done, maximum. After 5 sessions, it's not that this guy was slow, it is that literally nothing was changing after 5 sessions. And on this one I was even like more brutal. I said, can you tell me what are you getting out of those sessions with me? Honestly, are you getting anything out of what I say? And he did not even have a clear answer. He kind of was evasive, like, yeah, it's cool, it's okay, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. So this guy had some alcohol problems. He wanted to build a business, but he was indebted like massively. And I was really ready to take it one step at a time, work on this and this and that. And literally none of the things I was proposing to give him as exercises, as new steps in his life, it is not that those things did not work. It is that he was not even trying to do anything. And in the end, I challenged him and said, okay, that is the end. Basically, if nothing of what I do is producing any effect, either I am not the right person for you, or you're just somebody who does not want to change. Which is okay, but if you're somebody who does not want to change and you just want to complain, which was basically the idea, he was the kind of person who didn't want to really get help. He only wanted to be blamed as a victim. And that is the kind of final limit with me. If you want to change, I can assure you we are going to find together something that will make you change. If you come here just to complain and say that you are a victim and no one likes you, and you're not even looking for the possibility of a solution, then I am not the person to come up to. So this drew a line, and obviously without that extreme case, I had many others who were alternating between wanting to change and then kind of complaining, and with those ones I was more gently challenging them, saying, obviously there is nothing we can do about this, and if hypothetically there was a possibility for you, what do you think it is that you could do about it? By caressing their mind and pacing their limitation and making them smoothly go toward the possibility of a new option, of something they could act upon that would be beneficial for them, then their mind was starting to get back into action taking, into something positive for them. And the technique number 3 is a kind of dramatic hypothetical this time, When we talk about future pacing, usually in NLP, we talk about it from a very positive outlook. We tell people that if they imagine themselves being successful in the future, they will be more likely to become successful. And Tony Robbins popularized at some point something called the Scrooge pattern that I think he did not invent that, but it was something he popularized, he made popular, and it was the idea of drawing two different alternate universe, two different futures in the head of the person. In one of those futures, the person is getting successful, succeeding at many things, and on the other one, that person is not only not being successful, that person is even getting way lower than where they are right now. Maybe because they are losing their loved ones, maybe because they are losing their job, something terrible is aggravating through this future. When you paint those two images in their mind, it kind of triggers some reaction. If you do that in some hypnotic process, it kind of triggers some reaction for moving now, because I definitely don't want to get to the negative one, so let's move on, let's take action to get to the positive one. The idea of the dramatic hypothetical is something I elaborated later, was to ask the client, okay, if you only had 3 months remaining to live, you only have 3 months, not 1 day more. And this is definitive because maybe not just you, maybe the whole world is going to die in 3 months. In that dramatic hypothetical future, what is the only thing you could not remove from your life? If you had the choice to select only one thing for the remaining 3 months of your life, or even 6 months, what is the one you would definitely want around you in your life? The one thing you can't remove. Maybe many things you can live without, you can say whatever, is the end anyway. There must be one that really you can't live without. Or a few ones, maybe 2 or 3 things in your life. It may be a person, it may be an activity, it may be something to eat eventually, if you're a chocolate lover, whatever. What are the things you can't live without during those remaining 3 months? And if the path right now in your life, or if the activities or the career you're into right now in your life, or the relationships you have right now, if all of those things have literally nothing to do with what you answered to that question, then what the hell are you doing with your life? If the most important thing to do for you has nothing to do with what your life is made of right now, in terms of career, in terms of relationships, in terms of activities, in terms of hobbies, if the things that matter the most to you have nothing to do with your current life, then what are you doing? And when I play that game with people, it definitely kinds of provokes some huge reaction of, okay, that makes the whole thing clear. I must get rid of this, or I must do that. There is no longer any alternative option. There is no longer any alternative choice or excuses. No longer excuses. Just, I'm gonna do that. This is what I have to do before dying. When the fear of death gets introduced in the mind of somebody, they start magically losing a lot of excuses. And luckily, hopefully, we can play that game without the actual fear of death. Let's hope people will stay healthy and maintain a long life. And from that standpoint, just the thought of what would it be like if in 3 months this is the end, that will definitely trigger the idea of how many excuses you can get rid of, because the things that really matter to you are maybe not the things you have been obsessed with for the past 2 years or 3 years, or maybe you have left something on the side for years that actually is something you need to get back into your life right now. That depends on people. And if you want to go one step further into how do we lead the mind of a patient from terrible problems to solutions and healing, I have added some resource down below in the description. It is a chapter, a bonus chapter I have added to my book that is completely free. I mean, the chapter I have added is not in the original book on Amazon. This chapter is free, is down below. It is a bonus chapter only on the therapeutic uses of language whenever you want to help somebody deal with their trauma, their issues. First of all, what is the overall methodology to get them to act upon their defense mechanisms? How can you bypass any sort of resistance? And how can you make them more aware of how they can get better and heal in just 1 to 3 sessions maximum? Even people who are heavily traumatized, there is a solution for this. You have this documented down below. It is completely free. Be my guest if you want to check that. And I tell you thank you for watching and see you soon in the next video.